All right, so I am here with Maliyah, and she is our next alumni interview that we're going to be focusing on. And so I'm going to have Maliyah tell a little bit about yourself, such as how old you are and how long you've been out of CSF now, and kind of what's going on in your life.
Yeah, so I am currently 23 years old and I graduated in May 21, which was a year early. I'm supposed to graduate in 2022. So I was in CSF the 3 years that I was at IUPUI. And I guess now it's been 2 years since I left, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm currently married. I got married in September 2020. And Andrew married us actually and had our first baby girl in March on March 22nd, 2022. So she's also a year old now.
Wow.
So a lot of things happened in 2 years.
Yeah, yeah, that is
Yeah.
crazy to think about how quickly life can happen sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. And it all makes sense now. Like, not that you can't have a kid and all that in college, but being a stay-at-home mom and photographer, it makes sense that I finished early and just got straight to that stuff. I didn't know that was what was going to happen, but it is. So it makes sense now in hindsight. So
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, it all worked out and here you are.
yeah.
Yeah. So I know you just kind of mentioned it a little bit, but what do you kind of do and what have you been up to since graduation? I know you said you got married and you
Yes.
had a baby. And so, yeah. And what about your career?
Yeah. So I um college was interesting for me because I went in as a nursing major, did great my first semester, all A's, and then I was like, nah, this is too, like, I want to do something different. So then I switched to pre-physical therapy and art therapy, and again, did a semester of that and was like, this is fun, but no. And then I worked really hard to get into the respiratory therapy program, which they only choose 10 people from IUPUI to be in, and I made it in. In the first week, I said, no. So then I left. It's because I couldn't see myself working the hours that would be expected of me. I knew that I wanted a family young, and I was also approaching when we were wanting to get married, and I was like, this just isn't going to work with what I want to do. Um, and I also quit working at the end of 2020 after I got married. I had my last job where I had a boss and decided to pursue photography full time, which was booming so I started 2019 and my business was like at its all-time peak 2020 and 2021. So it was a really good time. It was paying for my husband and I where we lived, and at the time he didn't have a job and was just doing school, and it was supporting us too. It was fantastic. And then we became pregnant and things slowed down with photography, and it's kind of shifted into like Daniel now has a great job. He's a software engineer. And I've been allowed to become a stay-at-home mom and just pick up photography here and there as I want to. So I would say being a mom is definitely the full-time job now, and photographer more, just when I want to. And I can kind of take as much as I want or as little as I want. So it's really nice.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love the flexibility with that. And um yeah, like we just talked about how things can change over time here and there, like with jobs and everything. And that's totally great that that can happen. So
Yeah.
yeah, so you love being a mom. That's so
Yes,
fun.
I do.
Yeah. So for you, so I kind of mentioned this before we got started that like I feel like there's not a ton of CSF alumni that probably have children right now, or maybe they're just starting to kind of have children. Like we just had our first baby. And so
Mhm.
so what do you think like your relationship with God has taught you about being a mom?
Yeah, I really think that for me, it all started during pregnancy, because I struggle heavily with anxiety and a phobia, and pregnancy really brought out the chance of that phobia. And God really taught me his peace and protection over me my whole pregnancy. And that was something I really greatly had to work through and trust him with. And then having her, my birth was crazy. It was so quick, so intense. And she was in the NICU. When I gave birth, Daniel ended up in the ER for busting his head and getting a brain scan and all this stuff.
Oh my
I was in
gosh.
postpartum and she was in the NICU for was having trouble breathing and on oxygen and everything. So it was a very like unexpected, intense thing. Again, a moment where I had to just like, I mean, there was nothing else I could do but know that God was in control. And then becoming a mom, I would say that it has truly taught me grace and patience with her, and also getting just a glimpse of how God loves his children, like how I would just love her no matter what she did. And no matter how much it tests my patience or, irritability, that I would just love her no matter what. And I think that's when you really understand or start to understand, because I think it's greater than our understanding, like how much he loves us and feels that same way about us. So I think that's been a really huge thing for me.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I 1,000% agree with that. It's like something about parenthood and motherhood, like you just like I think you think you understand God's love before that, but then it's just completely different. Like
Yeah.
when you have a child and you're like, okay, I think I kind of get it now, like even like yeah, I totally agree. So
Yeah.
that's great. Yeah. So I know it's been a couple years now since being out of
Yeah.
CSF. But what would you say is like one of the most valuable lessons that you've taken out of CSF specifically?
Yeah. I think it was making the effort to find fellowship and community
Mm.
while I was at college. And I remember that being something that was spoken about in CSF, was that, you have to find that, because it's so easy when you're put in a new environment, like from high school to college, to find that and make friends and find a Christian group to be a part of. So I really took that with me, because my husband and I both have struggled greatly, like since becoming parents, getting into that, like, and I think it's really easy to take that for granted. Like even college, I thought, wow, like I really, I did put forth the effort to be in CSF, but even that was easier than not being in college anymore. So, and like having to find that through your church. So I would say definitely like just that fellowship and community. And like I truly became friends with so many people there, and still keep in contact and stuff. And so I think like just understanding the importance of having a community of believers around you, all different ages, and all that is really important.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think I've learned the same thing, like the value of like having that small group feel,
Yeah.
like regardless of like church size or like whatever church you go to, having people that you can really relate to and trust in is really,
Yeah.
yeah, really great. So do you guys have like a small group or anything now that you attend?
Yeah, so we go to Traders Point downtown. We've been going there since 2019, and it wasn't until probably 6, 7 months ago that we did join a marriage group together. And he was doing a men's group through just some guys that he knows. He was doing that before we had Thompson, and it stopped when we had her, and he started that back up actually just like a month ago. So we've been going through like a huge change. Like this is all very current for us, that we've really like taken our priorities back into check, and get back into these things. And it's kind of unique because so when we I don't know if applied is the right word, but like when we put in our information to get into a group with our church, we could pick age group and what location and all this stuff. And the downtown location was full. So we started looking into other locations, and one on the west side. they responded to us, and it's like 3 other sets of parents, and they all have at least 3 kids.
Wow.
And they do it online, which is kind of nice. They do it after the kids go to sleep. And I thought that was kind of weird at first, but it's actually been so perfect.
Yeah.
And it's been exactly what we needed as new parents. Because when we started, I think she was like 5 months old, or so it's been longer than 6 months and that we've been a part of it. But yeah, so it's just turned out to be a huge blessing, because we're like getting to be around other parents, and we don't have like too many parents around us at the age that we are. So yeah.
Yeah. That's perfect. Yeah. To be able to, I mean, that's what we're doing right now. It's like after when our kids are asleep and stuff. So
Right. Yeah, it's really, really nice. And it gives you kind of like no excuse. Like, you're home, the baby's asleep, like to get on and, have that time. So
yeah. Do you feel like your relationship with Daniel has changed and like grown since CSF and since your own like Christian lives have gotten stronger?
yeah, for sure. Because even in the dating years, I feel like we could recognize when we were far, like whenever ourselves individually were not spending time with God or nurturing that, we would have harder times. We would struggle more with whatever it was. We would be more irritable maybe towards each other, or I mean, the world just gets to you the further you are, from God in your heart.
Yeah.
So definitely, and especially like over this last year, like I was so convicted of it. I'm like, man, Daniel, we need to get back into something. Like, I'm ready. I'm being convicted of that. And as well as like actually going to church, because it was so easy to watch church online for a really long time. And we got used to it. And I was like, we gotta go. So we put her in the nursery now, and that's been great. Well, not the nursery. She walks. So she's like in the toddler room. So we put her in the kids part, and yeah, it's been really great, and we've noticed a difference for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. I think the going to church versus being church online is something big too, like what you mentioned. Like, do you like what can you talk on that a minute? Like what kind of difference is for you with like online versus like actually physically going to church?
Yeah, so of course online was great when I was like newly postpartum, and actually we started doing that when I was like really pregnant, because I went to 40 weeks.
Mm.
So it kind of started before pregnancy, which I think was kind of the not great part, because I totally still could have gone. But yeah, we just got used to it, and I noticed, I mean, I can easily be on my phone, at home. Daniel fell asleep. He falls asleep every time we watch it at home. Like, we're on the couch or we're in bed watching it, and he, I mean, without a doubt, falls asleep every single time. And I'm like, man, I know he's not listening to it, and I'm not listening to it. And I also just miss worship. I love worship. And we went back, I think it would be like almost 2 months ago now, that we went back and we're just surrounded by the worship. And I was like, I miss this feeling. And so and I had never put Thompson in the kids thing before. So that was kind of scary, because whenever we would go, we would just hold her. But now she's like walking, and we can't do that. She just wants to run around. Yeah. So, I mean, automatically we could just feel a difference. Like, okay, God wanted us. He understands your heart, and he sees your new parents right now. And like, I hear you, I see you, like, God's not judging you for watching it from home, but then at the same time, you need to be listening for like when he's ready, guiding you to maybe go back. And that's just what we felt. And that was like very much like we got a lot of clarity when we started going back regularly that it was time. And yeah. And then obviously we're both paying attention more when we're in there. And I have friends, like, I didn't realize it when I went back the first time. I saw people that I've met over Thompson's first year of life. I've met people, and they go there. And so now I can sit with those people and put my kids in, the kid stuff with them. And so it's really special now.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that's exactly what you said. Like, I mean, I don't think it's wrong to not go to church in person, and like there's different seasons for everything. But yeah, just listening to God and listening to what you think that he's telling you to do is important. So
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
I was really starting to get convicted in like a good way. It wasn't a way that made me feel like I wanted to run. It was like a way of like, yeah, like I am ready to start spending intentional time with you every day again. And I'm ready to be in a Bible study again. I'm ready to go into church again. Like it was like an excited thing. So yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yeah. So I feel like so a lot of what we're talking about, I feel like is like after college life and all. But I feel like a lot of this starts during college, and during college life and we were both involved in CSF, so we have those core like foundational things, I think. But so like gearing towards current students, like what kind of advice would you give to current students that are still a part of the group?
Yeah, I would say just to continue making it a priority to be going to CSF. And if not CSF, wherever you feel most comfortable as a Christian group, and having, because we're not to run from all different types of people. We're to be the light in dark situation. So I'm not saying to, just get rid of all those things, but you do also need a group of believers around you to encourage you and to lead you in all those things. So definitely making that a priority, and also thinking like, what am I going to do after this? Like, if you already know I'm going to be living in Indy still, or I'm going to be moving back home, or I'm going to be getting married, like go ahead, start thinking of those things, because I didn't think I was going to the church that I am going to now, but I wasn't thinking about, okay, what are Daniel and I going to do when we get married? Like I was not thinking about that at all. I was not ready for CSF to be gone. And not to mention my last year, we weren't in person because of COVID. So it was gone from me my last year. I didn't get to go to life groups and stuff. So it was just gone, and I didn't know what to do. So definitely making a priority and kind of a plan, like priority to go now, and then a plan whenever it's time to leave, like what am I going to do next? Because I really think it's so crucial for yourself, and if you're in a relationship or want to be, and just where you're going to be living next. Because I really do think that that was like the best thing for me and my family, was continuing to nurture that fellowship and connection to believers.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I feel like it's really easy when you're in college to only think about like what you're doing next career wise, but
Yeah.
like to put all the other things aside and not really think about those things. Uh,
Yeah.
I totally agree. I wasn't really thinking about that in
Yeah.
college.
And I mean, we don't know everything. Like you
Right.
may not know if you're going to have a family in the next 5 years, or if you want to have one, or but there's got to be something that you might know. Like you might know, I'm going to be staying in Indy, or I'm going to be friends with these people, or I'm, like there has to be something you can look at and be like, okay, how can I maybe have like a rough idea of, I'm going to stick with this church, or I'm going to explore this one, or, finding that, I think would be really good.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, this has been really great. Do you have anything else that you want to share or add in before we kind of wrap up?
Yeah, no, I just think like a majority of this was just like learning how to deal with like transitions, basically, because I feel like there's a lot of transitions that happen in college with majors and friends and whatever the case may be. Hopefully not another pandemic, but something like that. And then, for alumni, marriage, moving, you know anything like that, just like learning to like hold on to your relationship with God through it all. And again, he knows our hearts, and he's going to see, you've become a mom, like you're worshiping being a mother. Like he sees that, and that is worship, taking care of his children, um but to also like, so to have grace with yourself in those circumstances, but also to know that like you're only going to be taken care of as well if you're, nurturing your relationship with God. So I think that can happen in any circumstance for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's perfect because yeah, you can cover any base with that because everybody is in transition.
Yeah.
Yes, for sure. Well, thank you so much for talking with me. This was really fun.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was really fun to like revisit, CSF things
Yeah,
and attention to it all. So I'm so happy that it's going strong.
yeah, for sure. Well, you take care and tell Daniel and Thompson that I said hi.
Well,
Yeah, and we'll talk to you later.
see you later.